students, as well as our faculty. Many of them bring classes into our project rooms behind us. If you haven't taken a tour, do so. But, you know, UT libraries provide so much more than just books. We have databases, resources, expertise, computer labs, you name it, we have it. And so we hope that you will come in and avail yourselves of the opportunities and the resources we can provide for you. So today, Michael will highlight the services we provide here at UT Libraries. And we are pleased to have representatives from TACC, excuse me, Dan Stanzioni is here. Welcome, Dan. We have Angela Newell here from Enterprise Technology. And these are our partners also for the OSPO office program that we have on campus. So UT Libraries has been a co-PI in that grant, and we are delighted to continue to contribute in this way. Today is not just about OSPO, but you will also probably hear a little bit about that program as well. So welcome, and I hope you have a great meeting here at the Scholars Lab. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Lorraine, for those welcoming remarks. And I am excited to kick things off with our first department that we're going to be hearing from on campus, Texas Advanced Computing Center.
Thanks, Michael. And thanks again to all of you who are both here in person and online. It's great to be a part of this event again. We were here last year for this and to talk a little bit about our role in the sort of ecosystem of computing and data services we provide here at UT. Yeah, I'm Dan Stanzione, and although technically I'm an associate vice president for research, that's just so I can park near the library when I come down to campus and research park conveniently. I mostly run TACC, the Texas Advanced Computing Center. And we are, you know, not only the UT research computing, large scale, you know, high performance computing facility. We also serve that role for the UT system and the other institutions that make up the ever-growing list of UT system institutions. But we're also the largest NSF-funded national center for sort of open, large-scale computing and AI. And we also have various contract work in-house with NIST, NASA, NIH, DARPA, DOD, et cetera. We're about 200 people at the moment. And as long as the federal government continues to exist, that will probably continue to be true. So 50-50. We run about, oh, I'm just getting started on that stuff. So run about 20,000 servers. We have a little more than 1 million CPU cores. We currently have about 1,500 GPUs. We'll be adding 4,000 more at the end of the year. Again, Elon Musk permitting. So we put out about 7 billion core hours a year. We run a few million jobs for users. We have about 3,000 different PIs that use the system, about 40,000 users in a given year. We're at 115,000 since the center started 20 years ago, running these things. So yeah, we represent about $1 billion in federal investment over the last 10 years with another $1 billion on the books for the next 10 years. So one of the things that means is we have, by a fairly wide margin, I think there's been 1 year in the last 19 where there's a university that has a bigger computer than us. University of Florida might get 6 months this year before I knock them off again for their new system. So, but typically we have, often by a margin of 5 or 6, the largest set of computing resources of any university anywhere in the United States. And depending on how you define universities, pretty frequently the world. The Germans are actually #1 right now. So, so what we largely do, is particularly when you get beyond the scale of computing at your laptop or desktop and things break, then we're here to help with your scaling up. And we do that in computing, in data, in AI, more and more AI, certainly software capabilities, et cetera. To support your research, we try and provide the expert help to be able to use it. And we keep evolving the ways that we deliver that to help you get to the computing in the ways that you would like to consume it. We provide a lot of help with grants and strategy. I've written, I don't know, 700-800 support letters in the last few years. And we collaborate on tons and tons of proposals around the campuses. We also do a ton in faculty recruiting. I just signed off on another one this morning. I think we're involved in about 40 faculty recruitments around the campus this year. So especially in the machine learning and data science clusters. So, but we try and help recruit the top faculty and the top students here. And at this point, particularly with the advent of, or the sort of broad recognition of the capabilities of AI in the last 4 years, you know, the role of research computing has steadily expanded. You know, 25 years ago, we were mostly physics, chemistry, engineering, math, right? Was our sort of core user base. With the advent of genomics and imagery and so much big data in the life sciences that rapidly added on with sort of the data rise in science. And now with AI, I mean, we have econometrics and, you know, writing and just all sorts of things, right? We have instrumented dancers who we get, you know, data feeds from, put that together. So there is almost, it is hard to find an area of inquiry across the campus that is not really driven by computation, AI, and data at this point. So I do want to do a quick plug, my one slide that's actually in the correct template. We have our life sciences group in particular, in this sort of merger of AI and life sciences. We're doing an intensive full week, you know, 40-hour in-person training on this that includes how to run, you know, large-scale model training on our HPC systems. And that is coming up at the end of May. So if you have interest in life science type applications and you want to brush up on your AI skills as related to life sciences, we sort of going to have a focus training just in that, delivered by life science content experts. So it's not general machine learning, it's machine learning specifically in the life sciences. So we have a lot of other training events coming up this summer, from week-long to hour-long online, et cetera. We have a YouTube channel full of them of training that are mostly free. These in-person ones require us to serve food, so that means money. But this one's coming up in May. If you and my life sciences folks really want me to plug it, so there you go. So I do want to point out, because the next question we get is, how do we pay for all this? And before everybody zones out, for most users, TACC resources are no cost. At least no cost to you. I hesitate to say free, because what I really mean is somebody else pays for it. We've talked either the NSF or UT system into paying for it at some point. So, but to just get an account, you just go to portal.tac.utexas.edu. You go to that little use TACC tab that is the very first tab next to the logo, where, you know, user portal, getting started, pick one of those. You go to the user portal, you click create account. It's an instant process. You know, you put in your name, last name, email, institution. Since you're UT, be much easier than it is for some. So we've discovered there are colleges around the country that give out validated email addresses like candy, because maybe one day you might apply. And so those are the source of many Bitcoin miners in the world. So there's some colleges in California I could call out that are for profit. But anyway, it's like, yeah, it's like, maybe one day I'll fill out an application. Great, here's your validated email address. So so we were using InCommon to validate that, but since it's broken at more than half the campuses in the country, no. But for UT, you just put in your institution name, and it's not going to ask you for anything else. You create an account. We do use a separate account space for many reasons that would take longer than the talk to get into. And by the way, you use this for both, you know, open data, and we do protected data. And then you're in, right? They'll ask you for some two-factor pairing as well for certain kinds of access. So, so what kind of things do we have? And I'll dive into some system details when I lose your attention in a couple minutes. But mostly we have computers. We have lots of them. We have many kinds of them, and we sort of focus on the big ones, right? So we run 500,000 processor jobs. We actually just finished a simulation for a consortium that's centered at Carnegie Mellon, but it's all over the place, that did sort of galaxies evolution from the Big Bang until roughly 3 weeks ago. And that took 100,000 processors, about 900 days, that we did over about 5 years. I mean, you know, they used 40 million some node hours in 5 years of the life of Frontera, our biggest machine. So, but we have, you know, conventional CPUs, we have accelerated computing with GPUs. We also have some of those in-network data processing units, FPGAs, vector accelerators, things like that. We mostly do batch scheduled systems, but we do have 600 or 700 virtual machines that we run. We do bare metal, we'll do dedicated nodes, we do reservations, we have a Kubernetes cluster. We support most of the major container fabrics at this point. We have interactive portals via Jupyter, via the web, via programmatic access API for a lot of the automated science that runs through where you want to script it up and just let it run and never have to actually touch things. We have a big pain management, sort of biomarkers for pain management program with NIH at the moment that has, fMRI data coming in daily from participating clinics, right, where they're essentially running brain scans and we immediately get the data and process it. And it's an automated workflow that you can build. We also have a lot of visualization resources to look at data, both to help you do it at sort of the desktop level, on your laptop screen via the web through augmented reality devices. We have a large main campus visualization center in the POB building. We have another one up at the Pickle Research Campus. So lots of that going on too. Our two most recent machines, I'll spend a little extra time on that went online last year, Vista and Stampede 3. The new one this year, again, funding permitting is Horizon that I'll talk a little bit about, which gives us sort of four in production and a fifth coming, big platforms. Frontera is our sort of old venerable. It is actually still the largest academic machine, but it's 6 years old at this point. So per core, it's not necessarily the fastest thing, but it was a mostly CPU-based machine, 8,400 physical servers, 470,000 cores. It weighs 135 tons. It's a fairly substantial machine, 6 megawatts at peak. So not the kind you want to keep under your desk. Lone Star 6 is our sort of UT focused. It's only UT and UT system users on there and not all the national users. It's an AMD EPYC based machine. It has about 600 compute nodes and then 255 A100 GPUs. From NVIDIA, Stampede 3 is our newest Intel based machine. It is the Sapphire Rapids with high bandwidth memory and some older nodes as well, but it's got about 2,000 compute nodes. It has some Intel Ponte Vecchio GPUs that none of you are ever going to use. So we're about to add roughly 100 H100s to it to replace those. So that'll be online when the plumbing gets finished, which is now the biggest barriers in supercomputing today are plumbing and high voltage transformers, so which are back ordered 52 months. So because of this little thing called AI. Little known fact, the Tesla plant down by the airport has converted some of their, because of the super high demand for Cybertrucks, has converted some of that production capacity to just making transformers for XAI data centers. Horizon is the coming machine. It'll be in a new data center up in Round Rock because it's 11 megawatts by itself, but it'll have 4,000 GPUs and about 1 million ARM cores. And Vista is sort of the bridge system to that. It has 600 H100 class GPUs, and it is our first fully ARM-based system. So no AMD or Intel x86 cores. It's all the NVIDIA Grace chips, although those have done great. We have a few hundred pure Grace nodes, and then a Grace in all the GPU nodes. So we have about 9.5 megawatts of power. If you'd like to just do this yourself in your own lab, our electric bill is about $7 million a year. So feel free to try. We have some other more specialized types of compute. Jetstream, in partnership with Indiana University, is our sort of cloud resource. You go pick a VM image from a library, and it just instantiates on one of the machines. We have some of the nodes here. Some of the nodes are up in Indiana. A few were out in a couple other places like Arizona. And it has both GPU nodes and CPU nodes for that. Chameleon is our sort of computer science or cloud testbed, where you can put your own software stack from bare metal up onto a node, or get a VM node and put what you want there. But we give users root access, privileged access on that machine. It's a security nightmare. But it is the only way we can do crazy things where people want to develop new system software or some totally new methodology that we can't fit onto the production machines. Chameleon exists to do sort of and it's with the University of Chicago. About half the machines up in Argonne, about a quarter of the machines in Argonne. We have about 3/4 of it. And that's getting new hardware this year too. But it's to do stuff where you want to break the current model of computing and do something totally different. And we don't want to take down a $60 million production system for you to do that. So, so Chameleon exists to do the out of the box things. And then Cyclone is our Kubernetes managed services if you need Kubernetes time. We do sort of the same thing across storage. Again, we have lots of kinds. We really focus on the large size. You know, mostly when you get to the terabyte or multi-terabyte, and now, well, we may put in as much as 800 petabytes of new flash this year and exabytes on the tape side. So zettabytes are still problematic if you have any of those. But the but everything up to that. So we have currently we have about 25 petabytes of solid state storage. Again, we'll be adding 400 to 800 before the year's over. We have about 250 petabytes of spinning disk, which I'm hoping will go away and I'll never have to see again for the rest of my life. Is the goal for spinning disk at this point. Drives keep getting bigger, but they're not getting faster at the interface, which means when one fails, the rebuild time is up to like 34 hours. So that's unacceptable. So we have about half an exabyte of tape. We'll go beyond an exabyte in the next month, actually on the tape side. So, and again, with tape, solid state, spinning, different kinds of file systems, as you might imagine. Some of this is optimized for speed. In Horizon, we'll be able to do sustained writes at 8 terabytes a second, sustained reads at 16 terabytes a second. But the stuff that we do for speed is not the ultra reliable multi-copy, and it's not the cheapest, right? You know, tape is still incredibly cheap by comparison. So, so we're optimizing for speed, reliability, and cost, which means you have lots of levels. And again, we have some that's like super high speed scratch that you use for a short period of time. Our tape archive has been in service since 1986. So if you think Amazon is the answer for persistent data, keep in mind they started 10 years after our tape archive did. So also, yeah, if you believe that corporate sustainability is a thing, read the members of the S&P 500 in 1925 and then look at them now, and you'll find that all those companies are pretty much gone. So yeah, don't store your data with the railroads. The Oxford Library has been in business since 1000 AD. So if you want millennium type data sustainability, university is the place to be. So we actually just got the hardware last Monday for the new Samba Nova AI inferencing platforms. We're going to have sort of dedicated chatbot inference hardware. We can host a few trillion parameters that stay resident in SRAM. So they're sort of instantly available. We should be able to support a couple hundred simultaneous chatbots there. I mentioned we're adding some new H100 GPUs to Stampede 3 that we've had for a while. Just got to pump the water through them. And again, the ranch replacement has been ordered and is on its way, which is the tape archive. So, and if all goes well, we start the next big system, Horizon. The data center will be ready for racks around October 1st of this year. So, yeah, we have lots and lots of users, and I'll wrap up in a minute here. So, UT is about 10% of our total capacity, but that means 50 million node hours that we provide, about 6 petabytes of storage just through UT local allocations in FY 2024. If you bought that from Amazon, just the CPU time alone, I didn't even put the GPUs in, it'd be $138 million last year of value that we provide in terms of Amazon time. That's assuming migrating to the cloud is free, cloud network is free, cloud storage is free. None of those things are true. But just the compute time is about 138 million. If you are using cloud, I would point out that I measured this last year. We were up 50% or up 50 million from last year. And it's not because we delivered any more cycles to UT. It's because that's how much cloud prices went up across the industry last year. So again, we added about 2,500 new users just at UT in the last year. That's a pretty typical number. There is no steady state at universities because new grad students, you know, they turn over pretty regularly. But we have 1,061 active projects within UT. We had 73 faculty were first-time PIs. Again, about 40K active in a given year. 110,000 was a few months ago. This is not a good metric for impact, but it is an upper bound. People who use TACC were 70% of all the NSF funding across UT Austin, and more than half of all the NIH funding across UT Austin, you know, representing a couple $100 million in new awards last year alone. And that excludes direct funding because we got a $450 million award, which would skew the numbers. But but yeah, so, you know, odds are if you're winning funding, you're also using TACC. take that for what it's worth. We're not responsible for all those wins, but there's, the lower bound is the money we bring in directly. This is sort of the upper bound of our research impacts. So that's just some data to support that across all the system institutions of how many NIH dollars go to TACC and non-TACC. And yes, we built a system to scrape the grant databases of the agencies and figure out what comes through Texas. Just last note is that, increasingly the interest is in AI. There's some crazy theory that that doesn't have something to do with HPC. At this point, the infrastructure, with the exception of maybe the number of bits you operate in, although increasingly we're going to do floating point 64 using the 8-bit registers they build for AI and emulation. But tons of the work in the last 30 years in HPC has led to what is modern AI, right? About a third of that work comes from the physics and the process, right? Improving the transistors that we use to speed things up. About a third of it has come from the architecture, right? Modern GPUs look nothing like the computing devices of the late 80s when we tried to do neural nets the first time. And then about a third of it is from improvements in algorithms. In fact, the modern large language model and deep learning things come from an algorithm innovation, the transformer architecture, which was in a Google paper in 2018, that broke all the data dependencies and allowed us to stop running models on however many GPUs you could fit in a box and start running on 6,000 to 10,000 GPUs simultaneously across a data center. But so now the architectures are pretty much indistinguishable. So as we scale up traditional simulation, we're also scaling up AI. And so not only will we have the largest HPC resources in the country, we're going to have the largest AI resources in the country. And a fair amount of that software stack and hardware innovations are taken from the HPC community to make that happen. So come use us, mostly free. So at least to you. And let me stop there and we'll keep this meeting on time. So.
All right. Well, thank you. Hope everybody enjoyed having that opportunity to hear about the resources that are available to you at the Texas Advanced Computing Center. Our next speakers are going to come to us from the Office of the Vice President for Research, Scholarship, and Creative Endeavors. I'd like to welcome up Julie Hayes and Anna Battenhouse.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Hayes. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Research Core Facilities. I'm going to spend 2 minutes plugging research facilities broadly, and then I'm going to pass the microphone over to my colleague, Anna Battenhouse, who's going to focus back in on compute services, what everybody's here focused in on. So the Office of Research Core Facilities within the VPR's office kind of does two big things. So we manage a whole set of core facilities. Anna Battenhouse is going to talk about one of those. We also provide support broadly to core facilities. So we do some education and training. And we also create an event called the Research Core Facility Showcase. So there are 70 research core facilities on campus. That means there are 70 different organizations that have shared services or tools. So we're talking microscopes, mass specs, MRIs, that anybody on campus can use. Most of these core facilities are housed within a department or a college, but they are not limited to that department or college. So if you are interested in a tool that exists in a shared service center in the College of Natural Sciences, but you're a researcher in the Jackson School of Geosciences, you can use it, and vice versa. And there are a lot of really amazing examples of how this works and how it's really helpful broadly. So before I pass it over to Anna, I just want to say we have an annual event called the Research Core Facility Showcase, where all 70 of these core facilities are invited. They don't all attend, but many, many, many of them do. It's in person. You can show up and you can meet a ton of people that offer these services and tools that are available to you. You'll also see a QR code on this slide. That is a Research Core Facility database. So we now have a centralized database. You can click on that QR code or, scan it and go to a website and you can search for tools. If you are interested in anything specific, we made it as searchable as possible. It's constantly being updated. It's a really fantastic resource for anybody who's trying to find a tool or a service that they don't have access to in their individual research labs. All right, the focus of today's summit is compute, and so I'd love to pass the microphone over to my colleague Anna Battenhouse. She is the manager for the Biomedical Research Computing Facility. She's going to tell us about their offerings.
Morning. Let's see, I'm Anna Battenhouse. A number of you already know me. Let's see, how do I? Okay, good. So I'm going to talk today about the Biomedical Research Computing Facility, where we offer interactive research computing. And we're part of the CBRS. Here's a QR code to get to our users wiki. And just to orient you, you know, the VPR's office of the VPR with Dan and Julie. Of course, TACC, the 800-pound gorilla is over here. And then as, but Dan weighs a little less. But as Julie said, there's a total of 70 cores, and I sort of put the other 60 in this box over here. But there's the CBRS, Center for Biomedical Research Support, and that's just a group of 10 cores that are focused for biomedical applications. We're one of them. The BRCF is one of them that focuses on computing, small local computing, but we also have a bioinformatics consulting group that I work closely with, and many other cores in the CBRS that do things like genome sequencing, cryo-electron microscopy. We've got one of the best cryo-EM facilities around. Proteomics, microscopy, mouse genetic engineering, and so forth. So the BRCF mission is to provide a standard hardware, software, and especially storage architecture suitable for small-scale interactive research computing that can be efficiently managed. So in order to achieve this mission, we have several goals. The first is just to provision small compute clusters that we call pods. So we're the pod people. And this consists of one or more compute services, up to maybe a maximum of 6. That's what we mean by small scale. And a large shared storage area, like 100+ terabytes. And the goal is to complement TACC offerings. So it's our pods focus on interactive computing. So we don't have a batch system, and we don't have any process runtime limits. And we provide this large managed storage with backups and archiving. So we regularly back up research data, and we periodically archive it to tape at TACC. And I just loved hearing that they're increasing to exabyte scale, because I think I use with all the groups that I work with, I think I use like a petabyte or more of TACC space. I love tape. People don't appreciate how robust and long lasting tape is. Anyway, and again, interactive, no batch system or process. That's why it's small scale and interactive, not large scale. And we do have, for example, we have a few pods that have GPUs, but the idea there is you have one system. It's not this, connected fabric collection of GPU nodes that you can run on multiple nodes at once. You get one node, or the pods that have them have one node. And so it's a good place to develop your workflows. And then if it's a workflow that's very standard and you're going to do a lot, then you move it to TACC and scale it up. But a lot of times in the life sciences, there's a sort of try and try again, where you try a workflow, doesn't quite work, and you have to keep iterating over it or trying different things and very interactively. So that's what we concentrate on. We are not no cost. We cost. So there are two ways to participate in the cost structure. One is that the PIs, one or more PIs purchase initial equipment, and then they pay a monthly maintenance cost. A second way is we have something called the rental pod, where you can sign up for a certain amount of storage, but that rental pod has 3 compute servers, so you get the compute also. But you're charged on the basis of the storage that you sign up for. And then our other goal is to provide a boutique level of support. We try to be highly responsive to user issues. We're a small team, small but mighty. There are just 6 of us, and none of us is full-time devoted to the BRCF. So it's more like, 3 1/4 full-time equivalents. But our users are pretty happy with us because we work very closely with them. And our support team includes both systems administrators and folks that understand biosciences. So this is what the pod compute model looks like. You have a few small number of compute servers that are connected via high-speed local network to a shared storage server. And these, right now, our shared storage servers have up to 36 disks. And unlike Dan, we like disks. Solid state is just, it's just too, at our scale. Okay, so we're much smaller scale, but we like disks because they're cheap. And to provision this much storage, we need something cheap. So, because remember, our customers are paying for this. So they have up to 36 disks, and we reserve 1 out of 3 for redundancy. So it's highly redundant. But if you populate them all with 16 terabyte disk, which is kind of the sweet spot these days, you get, 570 some terabytes raw. And after redundancy, it's about, 340 some terabytes that are usable. Like TACC, we have homework and scratch areas. But unlike TACC, we never delete anything from scratch. And we always back up work and home weekly. And then as far as the compute servers go, we have command line access via SSH. And we also have 2 really popular web-based applications, RStudio and Jupyter Hub Notebook servers. And then we also have a very large number of bioinformatics tools that are already installed that we deploy using our automated deployment system. And this includes packages in the RStudio environment and in the Jupyter Hub environment. So if you have a bioinformatics program you like, it's probably already there, or package, or whatever. So it's kind of comes ready to ready to run. And then as far as the storage server goes, like I said, it's shared. All the computes see the same storage layout. And users don't log into it. It's really just kind of a file server. They can, but one thing that users really like is that they can mount it from their desktop using the Samba protocol. And so that makes their area look like it's part of their local computer. They can browse it. And that's very nice, because there's some things that, PDFs and web files you can't really look at without a local GUI. And then you can also do direct file transfers using a file transfer protocol like SCP or rsync. In addition to those research pods, And most of our pods are research pods, but we have two special pods. One is we call the educational pod, and it's dedicated for academic use. So it's reserved for academic courses only. It has the same set of programs and resources that the research pods have. And the instructors particularly like using the web interfaces like the RStudio, for example. Statistics and data sciences, which is one of our biggest users, they're huge users of RStudio web application. And in the previous academic year, we had more than 4,000 students and 30 courses that ran on the educational pod. Like I said, SDS was probably the biggest, but we also have a lot of freshman research initiative, FRI streams, and other biosciences classes, and even a few from the iSchool. And if you're interested in hosting a class on the educational pod, please contact us. And then we have a second special pod that's called the AMD GPU pod, and it's for both academics and research. There are 3 servers with 8 AMD Radeon MI100 GPUs each. So, I mean, it's not Vista, but it's some serious local GPU compute power. And these were generously donated by Austin's Advanced Micro Devices a couple years ago. Everybody knows that, well, if you're in the AI world, you know that a lot of applications require NVIDIA GPUs and are hard to run on other GPUs. But that's just a limitation. So we're not saying that this is, you know, an NVIDIA cluster that you can really bang on. But we have kind of the big 4 applications that are enabled, they're GPU enabled for AMD GPUs, and that's PyTorch, TensorFlow, which are sort of machine learning platforms, and then GROMACS, which is molecular dynamics, and AlphaFold 2, which is protein folding. And they are all optimized for that GPU. So if you have a workflow that uses those, this could be an option. It's available primarily for academic courses, but we also accept qualifying research projects. If you submit a proposal, it has to be something that's not horribly compute intensive. And one has to be, and it has to use the GPUs, and you can't have other access to GPUs or limited access to GPUs. And again, if you're interested, contact us. And that's all I have. Thank you for this. Please feel free to contact us if you're interested in any of the options that I've outlined.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that information. Next up, we have Angela Newell from the Open Source Program Office and Enterprise Technology.
Thank you. I'm Angela Newell. I'm excited to be here today. Thank you to everyone who showed up, and thank you to everyone who is online. Looking very forward to talking with you. I am the proud director of the Open Source Program Office. The Open Source Program Office here at the University of Texas is a partnership between many of the wonderful organizations that you've seen in this room. TACC, libraries, enterprise technology, where I'm from, and actually the iSchool. And we are funded by the Sloan Foundation. And our purpose is to support all of you as you work with software on all of these fabulous compute systems that you've just heard about. So we provide training, we provide resources, we provide best practices, we provide connections. We have a speakers bureau and limited hackathon support if you're working with students. We also do some research matching. for anyone working with open source software. We provide this training and these resources at multiple levels across what we call our pathway. So when you come into this world, as Dan noted, he had 70 new users last year, or 73. You might not necessarily know how to, get your GitHub up and how to connect with all of these various resources around campus. We help you get connected. And then we have some immersion training in languages like Python, like R, popular languages that are used. And then we have more advanced training in things like containerization and how you get your open source project to a sustainable phase, or how you take it to the tech commercialization office. So we try to get everyone at every level, and we try to provide as much training as we can that we hear campus needs. So we have a user group that we talk to about every 6 months about what researchers need from an open source software perspective. We will work with labs, we will work with large groups. You let us know what you need, and we will try to meet that need. To connect with us, there is our QR code. And our website, and you will see on that website that we have spaces for consultation, so you can do one-on-one trainings with our consultants. And then we also have our training and our events calendar on that web space. I want to say we'll be around forever, but I think JP Morgan gave the stock market a 40-60 survival over the next 5 years. And we are funded by grant funding that is dependent on that. So I do think that we will be around because of our amazing partnerships. So we are actually free to use. So if you need this training and consultation support, we are available to you regardless of the stock market. In another phase, or another hat, I will talk to you about AI tools for researchers that are available currently on campus. This is not just through the Enterprise Technology Office. These are through other partner offices as well. We do on campus right now have open AI licenses. There is a license fee if you want to use this, but Cam Beasley, our ISO, has made sure that these open AI products are able to be used with university data that is FERPA and HIPAA, and then like PII. So if you contact the security office, which is there, you can get one of these licenses. You do have to purchase a license. With this license comes the full suite. You are able of products in the professional version. You are able to use to build agents and then use this on a given data set that you would import into that product. We have 2 Microsoft products on campus right now, if you do use Microsoft. The first is Copilot. Copilot for Microsoft 365 is a for-fee product that can work on anything that lives in your Microsoft suite. You can make agents, you can make bots, you can deploy these different places within your Teams environment or your Microsoft 365 environment. That currently does have a licensing fee, but we also have the free product that's just Copilot that you can use. You cannot build agents with just the free Copilot, but you can use it to build work streams, share things. We've seen researchers use it to like sort through their grant applications to look for like streams of research that maybe they hadn't previously identified, so they can identify something that they might want to research later. But we've seen people do lots of interesting things with these tools. Again, the Copilot, just a general license, is free, but you do have to be logged in for it to be protective of your data. And then the license that you can build agents with, it does have a fee. Also, there is on campus right now in sort of a beta phase, UT Sage. Sage is built into the Canvas product. You can use it in your classroom with your student researchers. And this is to help them as they are in your class producing products related to your class. So as a professor, you would kind of dictate the parameters in which you wanted to use that, and then set your students free to use or to explore. On campus, we are expecting to have a new product that will be available free to campus. It looks a lot like the University of Michigan's Maisie product. It is an OpenAI product that you will have the ability to use multiple models and build agents and bots with. We're looking for this to be launched hopefully this fall, and it will be free to campus users, and it will be protective of data, FERPA, HIPAA, and PII. If you have questions about any of the tools I've mentioned, that is the website to go to. It will tell you what data protections are provided, and it will tell you sort of where to go to find the product and the fee structures. Those are what I'm here to talk to you today about. And with that, I will hand it off to Michael to talk about the two libraries.
All right. Hi, everyone. So now I'm going to be kind of switching modes here and sharing some information directly with you about the services that we offer through the UT libraries that might help you as you are interested in engaging in research computing here on campus. So I am the head of research data services, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, and the research data services team offers support throughout the research lifecycle, and highlighting here just some of the services and resources that we make available to the campus community. And everything from the earliest planning stages of a project we could provide support for to the the data collection, data finding phase. If you're starting to analyze and process your data, we can help you get started with that. If you're looking to publish your data, you're looking for data curation support, you're looking for advice about which data repository might be most suitable for the data that you are looking to share and preserve, we can provide support in that area as well. So I'm going to talk here in just a minute about some of these resources in a little more detail. First, I'm kind of going through the phases of the research lifecycle here. I want to talk about the data management plan tool. This is a great resource that we have access to on campus. All researchers, students, faculty, and staff can log in with their UT EID and start making use of this. This is a great way to plan out which of these research computing resources that you've heard about today you might be utilizing in your research project. So if you are trying to figure out which data repository you're going to use to publish your data, or which platform you're going to be analyzing and processing your data on, you want to make sure that you have a plan for storing your data during your project successfully, and make sure you're making sure that you're adhering to campus policies about managing secure data, you're in compliance with your IRB plan and everything else that's been approved, and making sure that you're adhering to funder expectations as well. So this data management plan tool is really useful if you are preparing a grant proposal and you need to develop a data management plan because you're required to do that. There are many templates for the major funding organizations that you can access here to ensure that you are filling out the exact information that those funders are expecting to see in your data management plan. And again, there is some great guidance available to you in the data management plan tool that can tell you what information about some of these resources you've heard about today you can plug in there if you're planning to use those. So it can be really helpful. And the libraries also provides direct support for the data management plan tools. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me or the other members of the research data management team, and we can help you with that. You can also contact your liaison librarian for assistance. And they'll either be able to provide direct support or forward you on to somebody who can provide that assistance. Once you are getting a little bit further into your project, maybe you're at the phase where you're starting to look for data. Here in the UT libraries, we provide access to really unique collections of digital data. Our Texas Geodata portal is a fantastic resource for those of you that might be using GIS software or interested in engaging in geospatial research projects. We have the collections portal where we have tens of thousands of scanned documents that you can access, scanned photographs, scanned maps, and other materials that you can utilize in your research. We also have the PCL map collection where we have over 70,000 scan map images that are available to you, that are available for you to use in research projects. And all of these are publicly available resources that researchers can make use of without having to worry about any fees or anything like that. And very easy to access through the portals that we in the libraries have developed to, again, make it just a little bit easier for researchers to be able to incorporate these really unique materials into their research. If you're looking for something that we don't have in our collections here in the UT libraries, the UT libraries might still be able to provide assistance to you. We also subscribe to a variety of databases that might contain information that is going to be useful to you in your work. I'm highlighting just several of them here where you can easily access information. Simply Analytics, Social Explorer, those are great platforms for accessing data about demographics or consumer spending, things like that. that can be hard to acquire elsewhere. These are proprietary data sets, so you'll want to be careful and make sure that you are using them in a way that complies with our license to use them. But they are great resources that you can incorporate into your research if you're looking for data. We also have some really fantastic computer labs in our library spaces. For everyone that's here in person today, you are in our Scholars Lab Data Lab, which is, as Dr. Harricone mentioned, a really fantastic, relatively new space that opened in September of not last year, but the year before. And so everything in here is still very new, very nice, a very popular space on campus. When you visit our computer labs, you'll find really nice brand new computers that are going to be equipped with some applications you might not have access to yourself on your own computer, or you might not have access to in other labs on campus. So for instance, if you're visiting the Scholars Lab here and you're looking to use software like AutoCAD software or Adobe Creative Suite software, you can find that on machines in our labs, which again, might not necessarily be available on other computers elsewhere on campus. We also have specialized scanning equipment that's available in our ScanTech studio. That is also in our Scholars Lab, just around the corner from where this event is taking place. We also have the Leberman Media Lab and PCL, just a little bit further into the building here on this main floor. And there's some specialized software there that you can use if you're engaged in working with multimedia development or research. Our research data services team also provides assistance for ArcGIS Online. ArcGIS Online is something that we have access to here through our Esri site license. It is one of the Esri products that you have available to you as a student, faculty member, or a staff member here on campus. It's a fantastic resource for those that are engaged in working with geospatial data in their research. It allows you to store data in the ArcGIS Online cloud environment to publish things like interactive web maps or web services, web map services, and you can also use it for analysis. So there is a credit system that we can use to keep track of how much folks are utilizing ArcGIS Online. We have a pretty extensive collection of credits. And so we can help you if you're at a stage in your research where you need additional credit allocations in order to continue your work. Please feel free to reach out to the research data services team in the libraries, and we can help you with that. And we can also help answer any technical questions you might have if you're using this particular computing resource in your work. If you have any general questions about any of the resources that we offer, like the ones I just mentioned, you can visit our library guides that are available through our UT Libraries website. You can find answers to a lot of common questions that researchers frequently contact us about. If you have a question about something you're not seeing answered there on the guide, you can very easily reach out to the correct members of our staff here in the libraries to get support. You can also directly schedule a research consultation. So that is really easy. You can click that button there, scheduling an appointment, and you can see our availability and select a time that works well for you. We can meet with you on Zoom or in person, provide customized support. There are multiple members of our research data services team that can meet with you. We each have different areas of expertise. We also have fantastic liaison librarians here in the library that can provide support as well. They're a great resource and a fantastic initial point of contact too for many of the questions you might have. And we, again, can offer support through Zoom consultations or in-person consultations here in our library spaces. If you're getting towards the end of your research project or you have a data set that you would like to share with others, we also provide direct support for the Texas Data Repository. This is a multi-institutional data repository that's used by many universities across the state of Texas. It launched in 2017, so it's been going for about 8 years now, and it's continued to grow over time and develop. We currently offer support for individual files up to 4 gigabytes in size, data sets, collections of files that are up to 50 gigabytes in size, and support for larger files and data sets is being explored. So again, this is a very actively developed data repository and one that we are continuing to refine and improve over time. The UT libraries can review draft deposits that you might have that you're setting up and getting ready to share. If you want to have a library staff member take a look at those before you move forward with publishing it and sharing it, we'd be glad to provide that service to you. It's a fantastic data repository because it allows you to get a DOI for your data set. So that makes it easier for others to cite it. It can help you comply with funder requirements and maybe adhere to something you promised to do in your data management plan. And we can also provide direct technical support for this. If you run into any issues with the data repository, there is support available to you through the library so that we can very quickly help you get over any hurdles you might be encountering. One final thing I'll mention is our workshops and special events like the one that we are offering here today. We really enjoy having the opportunity to welcome folks to our spaces here in the libraries, as well as to welcome them online over Zoom to join events like this where we can share information about resources that are available to the campus community, to talk to you about what we offer through the libraries, and to help you get started with new technologies you might be interested in incorporating into your research. So one of our regular events that we offer is Data and Donuts workshops. Those are offered multiple times each semester in the spring and in the fall. And we focus on a variety of research computing and research data topics, everything from data visualization with Python to data management best practices to publishing your data through a data repository. Those are all common topics that we cover. And we're always looking for suggestions too for new topics you might be interested in. We've also recently started offering immersive Python workshops twice a year, usually in the winter and in the summer. So these are great opportunities for a multi-day experience where you can get started with the very basics of using Python in your research, and it allows you to walk away from that experience feeling comfortable starting to use that in your own work. We have UTGIS Day that's offered every November for those of you that are interested in engaging in geospatial research. It's a great opportunity to hear about the geospatial resources that are available to you here on campus. We have Day of Digital Humanities that typically is offered every April. And we have special events that we also offer on a periodic basis. So many opportunities to learn more about research computing resources through our UT Libraries events. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Dr. Jeffrey Berg.
So it's really nice to be here and have a chance to share just a little bit of my personal story using computing resources at UT. So I'm an example of a faculty member who's benefited from many of these interactions with different groups, taught people in my lab, and I've always with them. So give you a little bit of an introduction to the types of research we do, and then I'll talk more specifically about how we've interacted with various things. And hopefully during the question and answer afterwards, talk to you more specifically about this. Great. So my lab studies bacteria, studies evolution in systems where we can watch it happen. And so that's often microorganisms where we can grow them really fast in the lab. And we have complete control over how they grow. Their little flask is their world. We can control everything that's going on. So just to highlight one experiment we have taken over, I've inherited from my postdoc advisor an experiment that started in 1988. And it's very simple. We just grow E. coli, this model organism, 12 separate populations, lineages that have stayed separate since they were started the same way. Every day we feed them, once a day. And my students come in on weekends, holidays, keep this going. I don't think we missed a single day last year. We came in on Christmas and all these other holidays. It's good to have a diverse lab for reasons like this. If you walk along Speedway, our window has a little odometer there, which is the number of generations that have gone by in this experiment. And hopefully it's going up in case we made a mistake. But the good thing about bacteria is you can always freeze them down in the freezer and go back to them. And that means that even though this experiment started in 1988, where we did not have a lot of the tools for studying science that we have now, we can go back to the freezer, revive the bacteria that's a living frozen fossil record, and then we can do things like sequence their genomes and look at the genetics of evolution. So a lot of what we do is analyzing DNA sequencing, DNA sequencing data from these types of experiments, getting finer grained information about what's happening and how these microbes are competing and becoming better adapted to this environment in this very simple thing. Now, we also study systems where you want to engineer cells to do useful things, to produce some chemical, to avoid using petroleum products or something like this for renewable kind of chemistry reasons and things like this. So this is a really growing industry, but the problem is that when you engineer a cell, you're diverting its resources away from its own replication. And that means that if it mutates to stop doing what you engineered it to do, it will often grow faster. And then it will take over this population that you're growing this huge fermenter, and you will lose production. And so we study evolution as a problem in that system and wanting to stop evolution. So we used our understanding of that. And then more recently, we've started working on systems that involve bacteria associated with insects. Insects are incredibly diverse. I hope you appreciate this. In fact, I didn't know this before I started studying entomology, but almost for every single insect, there's a wasp that parasitizes that insect and lays its eggs in that insect. Like literally, I'm not joking. So there's like levels and levels of complexity of these very small things. But a lot of them have bacteria living in their bodies in ways that sometimes are like our body. We have a gut microbiome, right? The honeybees have a gut microbiome that they pass around in their hive. It's important for their health. But what's interesting is it's much easier to engineer these bacteria than it is to engineer bees or insects in their genomes. So by engineering the bacteria, you can do what's called paratransgenesis, put that back into the insects and potentially help the hosts. We want to protect pollinator health, for example, and we can kind of activate their immune system against their viruses, things like this. So a lot of this also involves engineering a genome sequence, and then later you need to check that genome to make sure that you edited it correctly and that it didn't change inadvertently during replication of those cells in the lab versus in the insect. Lots of different things. And so my lab's been here about 15 years, and I've done computation. I don't want to tell you what programming language I started in. It was quite a long time ago. I've been doing computation for a long time, but a lot of it's been self-taught. But also my lab, we espouse these principles of kind of open science, open software, and that's helped us a lot in our science and making collaborative kind of connections to different people, I will say. And so we do things that range from command line tools that give like nice output that people can click through and visual things, and it makes it kind of user-friendly for non-biologists if it's run, to web servers, where you put in your sequence and it outputs something so you can use it right away, but you don't have to install it, to kind of making certain things that were proprietary open source so that people can put together pipelines of these tools together kind of stuff. And a lot of it is around analyzing high throughput DNA sequencing data sets. I should say that these are bacterial data sets, so the level of data and kind of computation is much smaller than if you're analyzing human genomes or plant genomes or some of this stuff. So it's somewhat manageable. And then we also do simulations, and this is a nice picture they took for me in the TACC Biz Lab. Hopefully you can see my profile, and I recognize all my students in profile, of just the dynamics of competition of different mutations arising in a population. And so simulating the process, you can try to understand it in these different ways. And so I think I just wanted to say a few different case studies or things I've encountered in terms of using things. And I should say, first of all, I am a free tier TACC user almost exclusively. I really appreciate that I don't have to think about updating my computers ever, that I have infinite scratch space and data storage for moving around all my genome data, really fast transfers of moving it from UTBox directly onto TACC with LFTP. All of these things make it very easy to use. And all I have to do is fill out, a form once a year to make sure that they give me my allocation. And also my science fits in the very small cracks of, the numbers of CPUs and all of the things that they do here. And, as long as you're a little bit smart, you can get jobs done in under the window of time they give you for a job on TACC. So all of this is free. But also I really appreciate it as like a power user. Like one reason I would not use TACC is if I couldn't do certain things on it. I've installed hundreds of different bioinformatic tools because people keep making new ones and you want to test them, you want to see what's going on. I have not really encountered in a situation where I could not install one of those things on TACC and that it didn't have the proper resources. And very rarely have I, gotten in trouble with TACC for doing something I shouldn't have. They're pretty good at kind of keeping you in the sandbox here, but the sandbox is really, really big. And so I think this is really an underestimate of the number of times that I've acknowledged TACC in my publications and grants and all of these kinds of things. But also when I go somewhere to big NSF centers that are based around open science, and they like, oh, we're partnering with the Cyverse people at Arizona to give you these computational resources. And I say, but I'm at UT and I use TACC. And they're like, oh, just like, you don't need us. So you really, this is a huge advantage. I would say that, maybe learning to use some of that stuff, if you're not familiar with command line and some of these things, is a little bit of a hurdle, but we use this in education. We have a synthetic biology team of undergraduates, and they're new each year. We teach them, and inevitably, because we're doing engineering, you need to simulate, you need to look at DNA sequences, find certain things. And they often end up, a few of them, learning to use this. We have people to teach them, but there's many different groups on campus that you can go to. And there's almost like every single size of short course, right? There's the 1 hour one, the 1 day one, the 1 week one. You just have to find the right group or find some peers who can teach you. And I think in the biosciences, we've been really good about that. And the graduate students themselves have initiated a lot of open, coding hours where people just show up and show people how to do these things. And yeah, so I think the whole power tool configurability resource thing has been really great for us. And that also I can give an undergraduate an account on TACC immediately. They can log in and they can't cause problems. We teach them not to throw sand in anybody's face. There's a few things they need to know to not kind of abuse the system, but it's really minimal in order to get them up and running. And then also just the ecosystem of these tools has become so much better. It's a lot easier to install things in a reproducible way than it used to be, 10 or 15 years ago. It was sometimes a pain to set up your software stack or this kind of stuff. Now it's just like, boom, Conda install this thing, and you're ready to go. Things going on. And so I think that's kind of what I really wanted to say. Oh, there's one additional question that I get a lot. It's that we run some web servers, right? So I think that's a challenging thing sometimes to set up at a place like the university where they want firewalls, they want control over your computer, all of these things. Mostly we've done that a little bit with, I don't even know how grandfathered I am with some virtual machines at University Data Services or whatever they're called right now. But I would say that usually people have been good at working with me to allow me to open a port or something else if I can justify it. So the people have been really supportive also just in CNS, IT, and other places for that. Maybe TACC has better ways of doing that. Occasionally I have done Amazon Web Services for things where I really want control over a machine, and it's, it's kind of a bigger project kind of outside of UT, but that's been painful to maintain compared to these other things over time. So people have been really supportive about that stuff. And yeah, I think just overall, this is, it's good to get into this stuff. It's good to get your students into it. And hopefully you'll take advantage of a lot of these different tools. There's, UT does so many things, and it does so many things like 5 different ways in concentric circles that are overlapping. You just have to find kind of the one that really serves your. So I think I'm a little short, but I'm going to go. Perfect.
All right, fantastic. So we have one more example that we're going to hear about now of how some of these research computing technologies are being actively used in research projects here on campus. And so we're going to hear what's being done at the Dell Medical School.
Oh, sorry, I did set it up with PowerPoint for you, so.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Not used to the mic. My name's Jeannie, and I'm a professor of oncology over in the Division of Oncology under Department of Internal Medicine. In Dell Medical School, as you can imagine, the research is clinical, it's patient-oriented. And we've been doing this in my lab since I started here and looking at how do we treat patients in terms of molecular. Okay. So where AI has entered in and reared its head into our research for good has been in looking, how do we clinically align the patient research, the clinical care research with screening, diagnosis, and treatment. And in particular, our focus has been and continues to be on the treatment side. So just to give you a little bit of considerations here, when we're looking and talking to people, because we develop these digital applications and they involve a lot of work and computation and bring them to scale with AI, we get a lot of questions as far as why not just outsource, right? There's a lot of companies doing everything right now. At least they're still there in business, whoever's left. And we can say, well, that's great. And we appreciate that. But here at UT, the main consideration is that we have a lot of innovations. So if we have one digital application, it can likely connect with others in like a hub and spoke. And that would be a really good thing to start doing and connecting the digital applications in a secure environment with open science, with the help of Angela's lab, and looking at reproducibility because we're looking for scientific discovery. Profitability and black box development and rapid development, while it's good, they don't align with the goals of the academic institution. And so we continue to work on these areas. And to give you a little bit of a general clinical care AI journey and how we use different resources here, what I'd like to walk you through is what we've been trying to do for many, many years right now. We've been looking at patient care from precision oncology. In this diagram, precision oncology is the mountain. And what we are trying to do is we're sitting on mounds of data. Precision oncology is about treating the molecular information, and it's agnostic of the cancer or tumor type. So when you're talking about the molecular information and you're faced with a mountain, as we often are with patient care, you have two things you can do, right? You can walk around the mountain, and that's longer. You're going to have some roadblocks because there's no map on how to get around it to come up with a treatment option. And that's the current process that's being used, walking around the mountain, getting the information in one by one at different timelines, trying to correlate it with the publications, with what works, what new clinical trials available. Oh, this didn't work. What, the report came and I missed it. Oh, let me go back for the detour. That's our current process in treatment matching. It's not specific to Dell. It is in general. What we can also do is climb up the mountain. So in climbing up the mountain, it's shorter but harder. We can use AI tools to make that climb easier. And why we want to do that is because we want the view from the top. We want to be able to see all the information that is relative to this patient and how we can possibly use and connect it. So I don't know about you, but I want my patient care to be the view from the top. And so that has been our mantra in our lab and in our research and how we're approaching things. What we want to do then is how are we going to do this with AI? Right now, we work with AWS and the emerging technologies team, and we have about 30, this is actually not quite updated. We have about 30 different processes that we use at any one time in our research. These processes separately are great, but we connect them all. And in connecting them, what we're trying to do, and we've been doing this since 2021, so we've got a good handle on it, is we're looking at data collection from the EHR database, any EHR database. It's not specific to any particular one. We work with sequencing vendors when we're looking at molecular information. We're looking, and we have algorithms developed on doing identification to de-identify me, I2D me. We have algorithms developed for identify to de-identify to extract me. So information extracted. Like I said, we've been working on this since 2021, and we've been engaged in the clinical research and leading molecular tumor boards. What we want to be able to do now is we're at this stage. We want to coordinate everything so that we can have a secure dashboard in order to do the clinician to do what they need to do and the researcher to get what they need to get in both a secure environment. So these workflows we work with on our AWS side, and they are the computation in getting stuff moving in terms of the processes, but there's also the clinical application that is also heavily played into our research. And for this, we use the research management system that is in continual update, and we look at, in particular, agreements and IRB. So under the agreements, and a large part of the agreements I attribute to learning about how to do this in a business intelligent way at UT through the Texas Health Catalyst. We've worked with Ruben and folks from the Texas Health Catalyst that have introduced us to, look, here's where in the process you need an NDA to have discussions. Here's where we can go for licensing. If you're putting out a digital application, you want a disclaimer in there. You want to be able to say, this is not intended for you to use this for patient care. Even though that's published and says that, you also need that when you're talking about hosting different applications. We also have data use agreements coming in. These data use agreements, we also apply and are relevant to our students working in the lab. The undergraduate students, we need to make sure that they understand how this clinical data is working and what they can and cannot use. And for that reason, on the clinical side, we require any training to be done on human subjects before working in as a volunteer at Dell Medical School, as an undergrad, and working in any specific lab. On the clinical side with IRB, we look at, is this considered exempt? In the exempt part, and because we're using different AWS processes, we often need PHI information to link different components. And for that reason, we need to have a plan for de-identification. How are we doing that? Who's accessing that? And storage of this information. So at different levels, you're going to encounter different degrees of storage access and the de-identification. Who's doing that? Doesn't matter if a member of my research team is doing that or an independent vendor, preferably an independent person, vendor, independent core on the campus. These are the things that we consider on a daily basis, and it changes according to our research project. So we work very closely with both on the business side with agreements, and we work very closely engaged with our IRB. That's the clinical side and getting the data up, getting the data agreed to, getting the data responsibly used for who, by what, and for what. And then we get into our our computational workflow. And for this, I'm going to ask Maya, a member of our lab, to come up, who's been engaged very heavily in developing our computational workflow and our particular applications that use it.
Hi, I'm Maya. As Dr. Kowalski said, I'm the lab's data analyst. So our workflow here is that when we have a research idea, we start off and we're like, we need to prototype this. And because of the amazing work that Anna does with the pod system, we are able to work in that interactive environment and spin up some instances of like, let me try this out, let me see what's working. And then we get to work with the online repositories and pull in all this mound of data that Dr. Kowalski was talking about with our mountain, and pull that in. And once we have that there, we're able to build up these workflows and save them in an open, safe way with GitHub that we have integrated with AWS, so that it is now a complete continuous integration and deployment cycle that is managed so that anytime I need to update my workflow, I can do it on the pod, send it off to GitHub, and it just magically appears in the web app. So these are full stack web apps that Dr. Kowalski will talk about later. But sometimes our workflows need help from TACC. So we don't have enough compute on our pod, so we're able to go to TACC and do some of these larger computes and simulations. One of the things that our lab has done was helping push for the correct agreements to have in place so that we can use AI with HIPAA data. So we've worked very close knit with people at the Information Security Office and CAN-BC that was mentioned earlier. So we've been all the way up that chain and talked with them about getting these agreements in place so that we can use our HIPAA data with these awesome AI tools. And one of the recent initiatives that we've been starting to do is we've been trying to work with TACC so that we can get some endpoints set up for clinical research, so that we can say, I could go spin up an instance and run Llama, but that's a lot of compute for maybe just a short little query or a little project that I'm having here and there. So we're trying to find a way to work with them to get that invested. So these are the clinical applications that we have. MyCME, TTS-BBC, and NBBC are full stack web apps all the way from the bottom up. TTS-BBC even has its own database built in. So these are not small feats, and they are all cloud hosted and Dockerized. So they are fully scalable for thousands upon thousands of users. Usually about week to week, we can get 1 to 200 users across these 3 apps. So we have all of that set up, and we develop all of this based off of our pod, and we can Dockerize it and make sure that this works locally. And then we can go test it all the way up through AWS and make sure that the development environment in AWS works, and then push it to production. So we have this whole CI/CD pipeline set up for these 3 apps. These 3 apps Dr. Paulson, would you like to?
Sure. Thank you. Interactive presentation. Maya's been integral in enhancing all of our computational workflows and getting these apps, especially this one that has its own database, at a point where, they are published in NAR and annual web issues. And so these have been our staple. And we have combined these apps into the first ever data treatment fabric that was published in AI and Precision Oncology. And if you take a close look over here, you can see all the little apps on the cover. So we show in there through specific case series, working with also the Mays Cancer Center as one of the patient cases and working with UT Health Austin on another, how the apps can be used integratively and separately to give you information all related to molecular treatment decision-making. So this becomes now our foundation for building out clinical decision support workflows with AI assistance. And Maya. And so I want to point out just the opportunities of the lab that we have been doing. Operationally, I mentioned we're building out an AI-enabled clinical dashboard and researcher dashboard. It didn't start as a, hey, this would be a cool thing to do because everyone else is doing it. It started as a, out of necessity, we needed to connect this information to be able to show proof of concept at a scalable level for our first application, which was MySemi. And so it was literally because out of necessity, we're trying to see how can we connect the dots here. We want to build it and scale it up so every patient can be able to go through this. And so that led to a grant that we're waiting to hear from on that particular component. The researcher dashboard is also coming up next. We are reintroducing our molecular tumor boards because of a recently good news funded accelerator grant that our lab is leading and a part of with MD Anderson. And in our accelerator grant, we are hopefully building out AI protein decision support for cancer research and cancer treatment decision-making. And as part of that, I can say wholeheartedly that we already are reaching out to Angela and Anna and also to TACC to help us figure out how we can do this interinstitutionally, how we can come up with a plan, because now the data transfers, the exchange of information, the who's on first, who's on second, keep track of third base, that all needs to be done with your help. So it's really good to see that these resources are in place. Proudly, let us be the model that shows how you can connect these, which will also have the foundational support in building the UT Medical Center and in the clinical decision support, the backdrop behind it, the data behind it, the connections behind it. So that's my plug for please don't ignore the meeting invite. And educationally, we also hold hackathon sprints. And so, Angela, we appreciate that you provide support for that. That is a lot of work. And we'd love to be in touch with you about that as well. Consumptively, these are our applications within our data fabric. And I mentioned Technology Rise, who we work with. We work with the AWS and emerging technologies team. We've been doing this and building relations since 2021, and we hope to build new ones between Angela and reinforced ones with TACC. I think that's it. And I thank you for your time.
Hey, fantastic. We are almost exactly where we were supposed to be on the schedule. So that is great. And thank you, speakers, for sticking around. So glad to have you still with us for this Q&A portion of our event today. So I know we have a lot of folks that are with us online right now and a good crowd that's here in person too. So to facilitate our Q&A segment, I think it might be best for those of you that are online, instead of unmuting, I'm not sure how the audio would be handled here with our setup right now in the lab. It would probably be best to just post your questions in the chat. and I'll monitor those, and I can just let me know which of our speakers you'd like to present that question to, and I can bring a mic over to them and we can get your question answered. Sound like a good approach. And for anybody that's here in the lab, we can bring a microphone over to you so that everyone else that's here with us in the Scholars Lab can hear.
Do we need to change back?
Yes. And
While we're waiting for that to pull up, one of the things I do want to say, Jeannie mentioned the AWS lab and so did Jeff. Price Technology, the emerging technologies team and TACC, we all have researchers, research support people that can help with those commercial products as well as the products that are offered on campus. So we do understand that sometimes you can use TACC or sometimes you can use other sort of grant funded resources, and sometimes you have to pay for the commercial services. So we do have people who can do both things. And that just wasn't emphasized before, but Jeannie, your presentation did a great job of that. So thank you. Did you have a question?
I just want you to turn on the mic. We can't really hear you out here. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I got it.
are there any questions? We'll give it a few minutes here in chat to see if anyone joining us on Zoom has any questions to add there. Are there any questions? Yes.
I have a question for Angela. Do you have training for the Microsoft Copilot? If people end up getting that licensing, is there a way for folks to learn how to use it most efficiently?
Yes, that's a great question. We actually have a whole suite of Microsoft Copilot training, and we have a trainer, Alyssa Street, and she will come and she will work with your team. She has trainings that are packaged and ready to go. Yes, we have a full suite of training, and so yes, absolutely. I should also say the vast majority of services that you heard about today are in that core research facilities database. And we have facility statements that you can include in your grant applications. As Jeff noted, a lot of times when you say I'm working with TACC or I'm working with these resources, people know what they are. And other times, like if you're working with the OSPO, which is relatively new, they don't know what they are, but they are great resources. And we do have facility statements for those in that database. And excellent Microsoft Copilot training as well.
Any other questions here in the lab from those who are attending in person today? Oh, we do have one that just came up in our Zoom chat. All right, this one says, how can I, as a graduate student, get access to TACC Compute? I created an account, but it looks like I need a PI to add me. How to find one?
Yeah, so for the most part, you have to be attached to a project, and you need a faculty sponsor for said project. If you want somebody employed, we can go after for any interesting activities that might occur. So if you're working with someone on a research project or even in a class project or anything like that, just ask that faculty member to request one, and then they can add you to that project once you have an account. To get allocated on the system, we do have some group ones for training and stuff like that. If you have any real trouble, just reach out to me and we can always find a project to put you on, or we have done exceptions and let grad students be PI. Yeah, I'm Dan at tac.utexas.edu. So if you can't find a faculty member, just come to us and we'll find a project to put you on.
I actually have a follow-up question to that.
Go ahead, Mike.
So for somebody that maybe does have PI status and they're looking to request an allocation, I've looked at the form myself, and some of the questions, for me at the level of that research that I had been doing, and how I had been managing compute, I had questions about how to estimate the number of node hours I might be using, for instance, in a project. Do you have any advice on how to fill out some of those things?
So we don't put a lot of scrutiny on smaller requests so that you can get what we call a startup allocation to do any benchmarking, so you can figure out what your future needs are when you have a larger request. So a small request would be something like 5,000 hours or less, right? In node hours. So if you just ask for like 5,000 and say, I don't know yet, I'm going to use this allocation to figure it out, then that's totally fine. Yeah. So what we want is, because again, we do anywhere from, 500 hours up to 50 million, over the, like, and if you're getting 50 million, right, at, like a Frontera hour on Amazon right now is like $3, right? So if you're asking for 10 million hours, that's 30 million bucks, right? So, we'd like to know that it's tied to some grants, right? And that, you're answering an important question and that it's being used in an effective way. But the scrutiny goes up as the hours request goes up. So the normal thing is say, hey, I'm new, I need a startup allocation. Then you run some stuff and you'll have a pretty good estimate of what you need to do more stuff. And you come back and say, okay, now I need a bigger research allocation. And, what we're usually looking for in the big requests is a plot that says, here's how fast it runs. I need to run 100 of these, right? Here's how many nodes I can run it on, et cetera. And you can get a bigger allocation. So, yeah, by the way, if you're paying for an allocation, we don't care, but, just, I'll take your money. But for the free allocations, we need some justification. So but there are fields like, grants, publications. If it's a startup, you can leave all those out. None of them are required. But yeah, but the trick is if you come in and you say, I don't know what I'm doing, please give me 1 million hours, we're probably going to say no. But if you keep it in the 5,000 hour range, and then come back once you have a little data, then that works great. So.
All right, fantastic. Thank you.
Am I going to have to migrate my ranch data to the new system?
At some point, we may do some of it for you. Yeah, so tape archive being the question.
Petabytes of it.
Yeah, you and 180 others, with the 180 petabytes we have on Ranch. Yeah, so tape archives, there are many wonderful things about tape. The fact that it's less than $20 a terabyte is the best one. But which given that I have 180,000 terabytes of it, matters. So, but yeah, a tape migration we realize is a multi-year project for us, right? In fact, the ranch you're on now, which went into production in 2019, I believe, we got the one before it turned off about a year ago. So,
Because that migration
so
was painful.
yeah, well, yeah, the problem with tape again is sequential access to files that are buried on a tape, and one users are not necessarily all together on the same tape. So even the max rate, unless you restore everything to a disk file system somewhere, you have to sequentially grab each tape, put it in by a robot, put it in a drive, seek to the file, pull it back, et cetera. So, we're estimating migration time at about 3 years. I mean, for the amount of data that's on there. So, at some point, probably, this year, probably not. It'll be all the automated migrations for the next year or two. So, but yeah, in a couple of years, that's going to be a thing.
Thanks.
And roughly every 5 years thereafter, maybe 7 now.
Any other questions? Check here and see. It looks like we might have received a few more questions from the folks joining us online. Next one is, which resources would be suitable for any type of CUI data that are part of any technology control plans associated with the Office of Sponsored Projects, the controlled unclassified data?
Yeah, so I can start on that one, and other people may be able to do it too. But actually, any of our resources can handle controlled unclassified data at this point, but there is special onboarding. You have to tell us that it's a CUI project, and then there's some forms you have to fill out. If you already have an IRB for it, we're going to want a copy of the IRB. If you don't, we're probably going to want you to get one if it's one of the things that requires it, if it's health data or student data. If you're outside of UT, we need to sign a BAA, the NIH Business Associate Agreement for HIPAA, that allows us to handle the data. But we've done 140 of those at this point, so we have a pretty standard template to walk through them. But yeah, we have a special encrypted file system, but we can mount it on any of the compute resources. So Vista, Stampede, and all of them are now certified for HIPAA, FSMA low, FSMA moderate, FERPA. Pick a random set of letters. It's probably one of them. Yeah, we have a SPURS score, FIPS, with certain letters, NIST 800-171, NIST 800-53. yeah, it's a very acronym heavy space, but but yes, most of the things up to moderate, we can handle with almost no well, I mean, there's always overhead, but with relatively modest overhead of doing that kind of stuff. We don't do classified, right? If it goes up as high as classified, then ARL or somebody else to deal with that. So, but yeah, up to what's considered, yeah, the regimes of controlled unclassified through FISMA moderate, we can handle on any resource at this point.
It's great.
Anybody else handling? So
Yeah, any of our other
I
speakers?
believe IT has some offerings, right, in enterprise computing that can handle it as well. And then there's another office at a compliance office at the vice president for research that can deal with if you need to put it in your lab or access it locally, you know, get laptop certified or something like that. They can help you out with that through Michelle Stickler's office. We don't do laptops. Yeah.
So just to, as far as our BRCF pods go, we are not HIPAA compliant, but we can handle de-identified data. And we have, we can work with you if you're collaborating with an external data provider that has a data use agreement. We can help fill that out and get the data on your local pod. But it's not nearly as secure, you know, different levels of classification for our pods. Just wanted to make that clear.
Great. Thank you for those responses. We also have another question. This one is related to the UT libraries. And the question is, do I have access to resources that the UT libraries can help me match with a research project in my area of interest? That's a fantastic question. I would say if you're looking for resources specific to your research area, probably the best place to start in that scenario is your liaison librarian. They're going to have relevant expertise in your specific area. They're going to know what resources are likely to be available to you, and they'll also know who else to maybe put you in touch with in the libraries for more specialized support in a particular area. So we are very collaborative here in the libraries. We frequently work together to provide support to researchers, and your department liaison librarian is going to be a fantastic resource for you if you're reaching out trying to get that initial information about the resources that might be relevant to you given the work that you're doing. Any other questions, both to those that are here in person or those that might be thinking of adding anything online while we have our speakers here? All right, well, while I'm giving it maybe one more minute for anyone to think of other questions they might want to add, I will say that this session has been recorded today. We do plan to post the recording on the event website, so look out for that if you want to review the material. Also be available to the folks that maybe had scheduling conflicts and weren't able to attend our live event today. We'll also, with the approval of our speakers, which I'll check with at the end of our event, would like to make the slides available too. So if we can do that, we would be glad to make those available to everyone that have been in attendance today and those that might have registered to attend but weren't able to be here for our live event. Any final questions before we wrap up? All right, I want to extend just a huge welcome to our speakers today for making time to come out over here to the Perry-Castañeda Library this morning to share all of this fantastic information with you. I think this is a great event. I'm really glad that we could have so many people together in this room that have expertise in this area to share it with members of the campus community, and hopefully this will facilitate further adoption of these great resources that we've heard about this morning. Thank you again to everyone that spoke today, and thank you to those that attended online. Really glad to be able to make this information available to the larger campus community. Thank you.